Hello and welcome to a post-debate version of BC Poly Hot Stove. Jordan is not sponsored. He is just having a tasty kombucha, and I have to say, I wish I'd done the same. If you're watching, you probably know we are. I'm Maclean K. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Orca, and joined in a very socially distant manner by.
Yeah, it's Jordan Bateman, VP Communications for the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association. Maclean doesn't let me drink beer on podcasts, so I can only drink kombucha.
That's true. The kombucha takes a little less time to kick in. Were you busy in the last hour and a half? Were you? Did you have anything going? Were you binge watching anything? No. The debate came and went, an hour and a half. I'll tell you. Let's start with this. Which party did you have in the pool for having the first debate wrap-up news release out?
It's got to be the NDP.
This time it was the BC Liberals. Yep.
Wow. Congratulations.
805, which is...
let me guess. Wilkinson won.
I haven't had a chance to read it yet, since this is literally, it's 8:10, but Wilkinson shares recovery plan, Horgan dodges questions, and then it goes on.
Well, Maclean, let's talk about John Horgan's performance tonight, because I have thoughts.
He is premier. Let's start there.
First of all, it was like watching the guy from Micro Machines. He was talking so fast all night. I don't know if it... Oh, there was Micro Machine ads when I was a kid, and it was like an auctioneer, and it would be like, oh, man, look at it. It was like, okay, for you, it was like listening to a podcast on 2 times speed.
Oh.
So John Horgan, I don't know if he was nervous or if he's always talked so fast. I just never really noticed it. But he was just like his little legs were just paddling like crazy under the water. So I don't know if they gave him a Red Bull beforehand or something. That not a great plan. So my observation on that was, first of all, it was compounded because Sonia Furstenau, on the other hand, was talking at 0.5 speed. So, but Sonia being so different, being female, and the other two being male, it kind of amplified the difference. I thought Horgan started pretty nervous. I
agree with that.
In questions 2 and 3, there was one from Andrew Wilkinson to him. Sorry, I'm going through notes here. I haven't organized them properly. There was a question from Andrew to Horgan, and then a question from Sonia to Horgan, basically the "why did you lie to me" question. Horgan lost both. I thought Sonia convincingly took him behind the woodshed on her question. It was, the NDP news release will tell you that he won. It was I don't know who won it. My general sense is Horgan survived, which is a win for him. Furstenau will get a lot of love from the press and media for the next couple of days, and that may cause people to give a second look at her. And Wilkinson was good. I don't think obviously he didn't have a knockout blow, but I having watched Wilkinson now for a couple of years, I do feel like I know a little bit more about his story after tonight than I did going in. The media kind of ridiculed the idea that he would mention he was a doctor 2 or 3 times, but it's a pandemic. And not everyone knows he's a doctor. Just because Keith Baldry's heard it, 1,000 times doesn't mean everybody knows it. So, anyways, Horgan, I found him shaky. And the question the systemic racism question, which, first of all, hilarious to me. The Shashi girl gave them an extra 15 seconds. Tell me about systemic racism, what it means to you, Maclean, in 75 seconds. There are people who are spending lifetimes writing books about this, right? This is tough questions for leaders, but not totally unexpected questions. And Sonia certainly delivered a very authentic answer. Yeah. Horgan said he doesn't see color. And I just feel like if I said that, if Andrew Wilkinson said that, if Stephen Harper said that, Justin Trudeau's not allowed to say stuff like that anymore. But, if any other politician says it, isn't that wasn't the whole point of Black Lives Matter and the black square in our Instagrams and stuff to take the time to think about color and to acknowledge that it's not that we don't see color, it's actually we do see color, and we understand that there are systemic disadvantages based on the color of your skin and where you live.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I mean, the I don't see color answer was considered I don't know what the word is, politically correct, appropriate, thoughtful response 8 years ago, maybe less than that now. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that we expect to hear from leaders anymore. There's I saw of all people a wrestler that I'm a fan of whose wife is African American. This is truth. He got asked this question, and he said, I used to say that I don't see color. And what he said was that, well, and his wife said, well, then you don't see me. You don't see my experience. You don't see my day-to-day reality. And I understand why you're saying that, but it's actually kind of hurtful in an unintentional way. And so, yeah, I was kind of surprised to hear Horgan, who is, both woke and lit, going in that direction. Now, that said, that is a difficult question, as you said, in 75 seconds. No one really mastered. Although, you know what? Sonia Furstenau had a really good answer. She does a better job than either of the other two in allowing words to hang there. You mentioned her talking at half speed. She does that too. But also occasionally just sort of saying something and then letting it sit, even for just that little second. It's actually quite a powerful thing to do. I can understand why leaders don't do it more. I'm a rambler myself, but he's agreeing. But yeah, it's there's no winning that question, right? I mean, you can't ever say enough.
Yeah, any answer you give is going to fall somewhat flat.
Yeah.
It used to be you'd say like, well, I have friends who are of color and they've really, taught me a lot about their experience. Can't say that anymore. It does have to be that personal reflection, and that's where I think Sonia came off well. Sonia, could have mentioned, that she supported the new leader of the Federal Greens, who is a black woman. She could have mentioned that Adam Olson is, I believe, Indigenous, of Indigenous descent. Didn't go to that crutch, went really to this really resonated with me as a mom because I thought about my kid and that it meant a lot. Moving to Sonia, I thought her weakest moment of the debate was her closing statement. And I think it's because it was the only part of it that was scripted. And
that's a good insight, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she just kind of fumbled it away. And, she should have taken the notes in front of her and just kind of put them down and, leveled with the people. It just seemed inauthentic after a night where she was clearly answering from the heart. And, it's so hard, Maclean, because we talk about systemic racism questions. Obviously there's a lot of discussion about equality, treatment of women in politics right now. So I don't want to use adjectives like, she was softer, she was more authentic. And I'm not using it because she was a woman. She genuinely came across as the most genuine, right? Like that's just what happens. So
yeah,
it's like I'm almost on the other side of it now where I'm like hypersensitive to I actually don't want to compliment her for something that she did really well. It's tough. Debates are tough. And this is her first one. And I mean, maybe she had some with the Green leadership. I doubt it. Or if it was, it was on Zoom.
They did. Yeah. They had Zoom debates during the pandemic. And yeah.
Those must have been barn burners. No, sorry, that's causes carbon. But anyways, I think the media will come out and say, she had an excellent night. Maybe there's a big chunk of undecided voters. Maybe they'll start considering her. And look, that's bad news for John Horgan if people are starting to think about the Greens again.
You're right. You mentioned sort of her high point, her low point. We haven't talked about Andrew Wilkinson yet. I actually also thought that at the beginning he was a little nervous, a little bit, and I like Horgan. He started to seem to find his feet as the evening went on. And hey, I mean, I can understand. I mean, the opening up especially, I think of all the three leaders, Wilkinson had most on the line in this debate. We mentioned Sonia Furstenau may get declared, the winner if there is a winner, but she's not going to be the next premier. If Horgan had been, if we were agreeing here that Horgan had won the debate, we'd be like, well, that's decisive. If Wilkinson, I imagine he was looking for that knockout blow, and I think he did score some hits. I do. And I think he found his feet as he went along. I think that probably helped him also was the format. especially with some of the trickier questions, and there wasn't that the debate and crosstalk afterwards. I'm sure Horgan was quite upset that he didn't get a chance to weigh in on the whole Bow and Maw thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but after a slightly nervous beginning, I think he did actually fairly well.
Yeah, like I'm kind of going through my notes here. Early on, there was a climate section. First, I'll talk about the climate emergency, and it was right after it was just before she kind of took on Horgan for essentially lying to people. But it was a missed opportunity, right? Like she didn't bring up his lies on Site C or on LNG, which would have been very powerful things. She seemed reluctant to say the word lie, like despite the best political advice available from us. That would be that is somewhere she should have gone.
She said disingenuous once or twice, but that's about it.
Yeah, look, there was no platform surprises. There was no one blundered on their platform. I thought Wilkinson did a good job on the healthcare question, where Horgan really thought he had him. Like, oh, I'm going to talk to you about healthcare, and Andrew just kind of casually threw out there, wow, the BC Liberal Party built 14 hospitals. You've got none. You've opened none. That's a pretty good record. And from there, Horgan was just, that's when he got fast. That's when he got you sold the land, man, which is a sign that Horgan's not doing well. It's a tell. If you're ever playing poker with John Horgan and he complains or calls you man, go all in. He's probably bluffing. That's just a little pro tip there. Anyways, but a healthcare question is one of those questions which should skew to the NDP. I mean, they've been in charge during COVID. This is bread and butter issue. Tommy Douglas invented it. All these things, and he lost that exchange with Wilkinson. And then I noticed on NDP land came out. Oh no, all these look at these 16 hospitals we've got going. Well, how many are open? None. How many are actually funded? They won't tell you that. Surrey's not funded. Cowichan isn't funded. It's just been announced. So like, okay, great. The BC Liberals will build 150 hospitals next term with the same funding that you're giving Surrey. So like, it's it was just a weird moment because I've never seen a free enterprise or candidate beat an NDPer on the healthcare question. It was odd.
Yeah. Hey, and what did you think of the format? Because we kind of touched on that a little bit.
I hated it.
Yeah, I didn't like right off the bat.
2 questions.
I think was it Wilkinson first? I think it was.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who, but it was odd to see a person, in this case Wilkinson, get asked a question and then the moderator goes, "Okay," and right back to you. I mean, whoever was third wasn't involved for the first 5-10 minutes of the debate. I don't know about that. I prefer to see each candidate getting a chance to answer the same question. There are cases where tailored questions are appropriate. I mean, obviously, you don't ask Andrew Wilkinson about John Horgan breaking CASA. We know the answer, but that is a good question for Sonia Furstenau and John Horgan. That said, I didn't like that, and there was a moment I think in the first exchange where they were allowed to ask each other questions, and Shachi said something like, "Oh, and Sonia, you won't be involved in this segment because the first 2 questions are Horgan asking Wilkinson and Wilkinson asking Horgan." And the camera was on Furstenau for just like a half second. You could kind of see her go, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah. The 2 questions was weird. The fact that the 3 of them weren't allowed to debate each other was weird. There was that weird moment where Wilkinson thought he had figured out a way to game the system and, "Hey, Sonia, isn't that crazy what a lying liar that lying Horgan is?" And like, and Horgan's just, you can just see the smoke coming out of his ears, and, but there was no answer to it, right? Like, Sonia kind of was much more polite than maybe Wilkinson wanted, but yeah, that was weird. Look, you got the usual praise for Shachi, as any moderator except American ones get, which is, can I vote for her? Yeah, that's a classic debate. Drink that on your big no card. But she did fine. I think these candidates were very beaten. I think the Trump-Biden debacle had really reinforced in their prep, do not talk over each other.
Well, and I mean, you can compare Shachi Curl to, was it Chris Wallace? For a very long time, but I mean, Shachi Curl is fortunate. She did a good job. I should preface that, but she's fortunate in that she wasn't trying to moderate, Donald Trump, which no one can do.
Very obedient candidates.
Yeah, it was it was a very sort of it was a very respectful debate, actually. I mean, there were some sharp exchanges, but I mean, it never got ridiculous or even remotely out of hand.
No. The real question, though, Maclean, is what does AJ and Maple Ridge think of all this? Let's go to him live. No,
What?
The funny thing, like Wilkinson should have thrown that right back at Horgan and said, "Yeah, well, great for AJ. What about the other 5,000 people living on streets? What about the people who are terrorizing Beacon Hill? What about the people who have Adam Sterling so scared that he can't look out his window anymore? And what about, and we were in power 16 years. We have thousands of AJs we can point to. You've got one. Good job, Mr. Premier. Like, come on." But Wilkinson isn't that kind of debater. He's not like a street fighting debater. I honestly think Wilkinson believes in his heart of hearts that, and maybe this comes from his time in the bureaucracy, is that he can reason people into agreeing with him.
Actually, that's also a good insight.
Yeah. Well, if it's just, I have this, perfect art, of course, if I just give the argument and the 3 points of evidence for it, of course, John Horgan will understand that, this plan is better. No, that isn't how life works, right? Like,
well, understand and say so.
Yes, well, understand, say so, and applaud me as the wonderful human I am.
Yeah.
BC Liberal MLA, so I didn't expect to get shout-outs tonight. Norm Letnick. I didn't have Norm Letnick in my pool.
You know what? I will happily disagree with you there. If there was ever going to be anyone on the BC Liberal side, aside from Jane Thornthwaite, referenced in tonight's debate, it probably was Norm Letnick because of the health cooperation that was going to be something that I think Sonia was always going to reference Norm because she wanted to reinforce all the work that was going on throughout the summer with all three parties as a reason why, the government was not unstable. It wasn't going anywhere. And if you want a good reason, no less of a reference than Adrian Dix has been citing Sonia because she was the health critic for her party, and Norm Letnick. So I think that it only made sense to bring him up.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fine. No Laurie Thronis.
Well, that's the one that I.
How do we go through a whole section on social issues and not talk about Laurie?
I imagine in the NDP war room, and I guess I should reference that Horgan, Furstenau, and Wilkinson are all talking to the media right now, one at a time, as we speak. I think Horgan was first, then Sonia, then Wilkinson. So, but I imagine.
I'm sorry to tear you away from that.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
You owe me.
I will get a recording from someone else. I am curious to hear. We know what most of their answers will be, but I am curious. But the one thing that I think they probably would have told Horgan afterwards, because in a post-debate breakdown, you always have that. Well, this is what went well. This is what went well. Here's what you should have said, because you're going to go see the media in a few minutes. Mentioning Laurie was probably one of the ones where they would have said to John, "This is one thing that you could have hit on and didn't," and he didn't.
Yeah, so it's always so easy for the after debate quarterbacks. You see, it's harder when you're in the moment. I thought Sonia won their exchange on childcare.
Yes.
I thought, I thought the carbon tax. I thought Wilkinson was fine on carbon tax. I didn't like how Shachi a couple times editorialized after answers. Like, I'm not really into you rephrasing what you think the leaders have said. Like, I just listened to the leader. I don't need the moderator to tell me what you think they've said, but that's fine. But yeah, no, the things that will be remembered, I think, from this debate are, Furstenau's heartfelt discussion of systemic racism. Furstenau taking him to task for, don't say the word lying, but lying, breaking his word, and probably John Horgan not seeing color, like that. The premier of the third largest province in the Dominion of Canada does not see color, and that is a questionable thing to say in a time where we are all being pretty introspective about systemic racism. I wonder what maybe that explains why Nathan Collins is candidate. But
that's another name that didn't get brought up. Anita McPhee and Nathan Cullen.
Yeah. So that's a thing. I thought it was, I find the questions about to the Green Party, like, why don't you have more candidates of color? I always find that a little unfair. She has been leader for a week, and this idiot called election. That's why I said, you know what? You're right, Shachi. I was the leader for 4 days, and this jackass called an election. So I didn't really have a chance to implement the policies I want. But my deputy leader is of Indigenous descent. And I supported the first Black woman to lead a major Canadian federal party. Proud of that. We've got more work to do. And if this guy would have held to his word and given us the time, we would have done it.
Well, I mean, and also, I mean, it's kind of you're right. It's a silly question to ask them because of yes, the rushed snap election, but also, she could have said, listen, as of the last election, our caucus was only 1/3 white male, and you're asking me this question, but it's right, like,
and we dumped that guy.
Yeah, let me get this straight. You're asking the only woman up here about diversity in her candidates, right? Like, that's. I mean, I appreciate that the question was not just about gender, but also people of color. But still, I mean, she'd have a point.
Yeah, you and I could never do a debate. We're just too mean. Like, we're too caustic to be.
It's easy after the fact too. Is the other thing. But you're right. That was a kind of a silly question, I thought. But others have noticed that their slate tends to be very pale, shall we say. But again, what do you want from a party that just had its leader? I think she's been leader a month now.
Yeah. It took 2 weeks between the time she became leader and signing papers. Like, come on, give her a break. Maybe we should go. Our connection's kind of choppy and acting funny. So.
Okay.
I don't know. Unless anything else. Like I said, I feel like Horgan survived, which is a win for him.
Yep.
Andrew did well. I thought he introduced himself to the public in a way that maybe they hadn't seen before. Mm-hmm. And then, Sonia, if you're going to pick a winner, pick Sonia, and I think the media certainly will. And it certainly gives her an interesting platform to go from here. I'll be interested what the radio debate is like on Thursday. Thursday with Simi Sarah. Mm-hmm. That will be it'll be interesting to see what they canvass that's different from this. I suspect that's where the Laurie Thornes question might come up.
Yeah, that's true. Not as many people will watch the radio debate. I think that, I agree with your assessment. I think because they have to pick a winner, it'll be Sonia Furstenau because I think she did perform the best. Horgan survived, and Wilkinson comported himself well, but I mean there was no mortal wound inflicted on Horgan, and so did this debate change any voters' minds? I don't know. Maybe one or two, but I mean this isn't going to be a watershed moment, I don't think.
Does it get Sonia from the 11 or 12 points she's at the polls now to 18? That becomes an interesting election dynamic thing, because then you're talking about some three-way races places.
Yeah, I mean, not too many places, to be totally honest with you, but yes. I mean, like the Greens are talking survival when they're being honest, and it's they're going into this with 2, and I think that if you injected it with truth serum, they'd be happy to come out of it with 2. And anything more than that will be bonus. We'll see. I mean, they are the party that was probably most victimized by the snap election call.
Yeah. Well, apologies for the connections, folks. I know it's kind of garbled here a few times, but hopefully only when Maclean is talking, not when I'm talking.
Yeah, well, I mean, that'll sound like garbled then anyway, no matter what. Until we will see you all again in a more professional setting. Well, I guess my background never changes these days. But on Friday. Until then, I'm Maclean.
I don't see backgrounds, so it's okay.
I can't top that. Until next time, happy politics.